All right. Hi, Corinne.
Hello?
I am so glad you came in today. I'm interviewing you today because of Good Bank.
Yes.
Saw you in Harvard Square holding a sign that says Good Bank on it. And I wanted to know more. Could you just tell me what is Good Bank?
Yes. So Good Bank is a micro-lending project. I give out very, very small loans to people who are homeless, who stay in shelters, couch surf, or live outside.
Couch surfers?
Couch surfers. A lot of people, I don't think it's nice to call a person by a label. So some people identify themselves as saying that they don't know where they're going to sleep that night or that they're couch surfing. So
how does it work? Like if I came up to you and I was couch surfing, how would it work? What would I do?
Well, usually people come up and ask me what I'm doing or how it works, or they've heard about Good Bank from someone else, so I will explain to them that I give out very, very small loans. The first loan that a person can take out, the maximum is $5, so they're very small loans. People have borrowed as little as a quarter from me. The first time, most people want to borrow $5. Once they've repaid it, they build credit with me, so then they can borrow $10. They repay that, they can borrow $15, repay that, so on and so forth. But the first time a person takes a loan out, the maximum is $5. So there are no forms, there's no ID, but what I do is explain the project and how a person can repay me. I also explain that I have a limited amount of money from a generous donation. And so if people don't repay me, then the project will end. And people have been really good about repaying. So once someone has the information, they can decide if they're interested in taking a loan or not.
So you have anonymous donation, and that's what helped you start?
The first donation I got was from the Awesome Foundation. It was a very generous $1,000 grant for the project, and that's how I was able to start the project. And since then, I've gotten 3 anonymous donations for $100 each, and an anonymous donation for $20, and then lots of small donations along the way, 25 cents, 50 cents, things like that. So with all of those donations, I'm able to make more loans.
Wow. So people do repay?
Yes.
Even if they're homeless, they're able to repay somehow?
Yes.
And how is that?
Well, people who are homeless they often have sources of income. They just don't have enough income to have a place to live. Rents are extraordinarily expensive in this area. So a person with a minimum wage job or even 2 minimum wage jobs cannot afford to live in a regular apartment or housing. So a lot of people have jobs, so they repay me when they get their paycheck. A lot of people have disability or some other source of a regular income, and they'll repay me when they have that money. And then some people ask for spare change out on the street or get money from other ways, and then they'll repay me with that money.
So you don't restrict them from what they're going to spend the money on at all?
No.
What is the most unusual thing you've seen someone spend the money on?
Well, one of the things that happened at the very beginning of the project, which I thought was very interesting and very delightful, because I have a teenage son. A teenage boy borrowed $5, and he went away, and apparently his most urgent need was some flowers because he came back and gave a girl flowers. So I thought, all right, his most urgent need was flowers, but I think many a teenage boy would understand that.
Wow. So how long has Good Bank been around?
I started making loans last April, so almost 1 year now.
Where did you get this idea, Corinne?
Well, there are lots of micro-lending projects all around the world, and usually we see micro-lending in an international setting, but not in the United States. I identify as a person who's been poor most of their life, so I know very keenly that there is a need for credit in the United States, and we don't normally see people extending a whole lot of credit to people who need it most in this country. So there are other emergency loan programs that I've been aware of or that I've benefited from, and that's where I got the inspiration. This specific project, I've wanted to do lots of different micro-lending projects, and there are other groups that I'd like to lend to in larger amounts, but this was one that was doable at this time because of the size of the grant I had.
So I've seen you with a sign, a cardboard sign. Now I'm wondering about the sign because it's just so interesting to me. Is there a reason with the sign? Is the sign like, are you saying I'm just like one of my customers in a way? Is that it?
I haven't thought a lot about it, but I guess that's why. So yes, I'm saying I'm identifying myself as a resource in the same way that other people might identify themselves as needing some money. So I didn't think too much about it when I did it, but it just seemed like the natural way to advertise or to identify myself. And then the other thing I do so that people know I'm Good Bank is that I try to wear the same outfit every week, which worked in the summer, did not work so well in the winter. So that people could say, oh, it's the lady with the bright orange hat holding the Good Bank sign.
Did it take a while for people to trust you?
I think so, yes. So I had customers the very first day, but I noticed that the longer I was there, the more people repaid. So I think at first they thought, who's this crazy lady? Who knows if I'll ever see her again? And as they saw that I really was intent on providing a service, my repayment rate crept upward, and it's been going up every single week.
So right now, are you in the black?
Well, I don't think we can really measure it that way as far as in the black. I started out with $1,000 to lend. I've lent out over $1,800 from that original $1,000. So in a way, when you donate to a charity, a very good charity might spend 90 cents of your dollar on what you're donating towards. Good Bank does something with the money where it multiplies it. So I got $1,000 and I turned it into $1,800. So I don't think we can measure it in terms of profit or not, but it's working well, and I've been able to continue that for a year.
Did someone in your life inspire you to do this?
Well, all people in my family are very kind and thoughtful and empathetic, and I was raised to pay attention to people around me, so I think that I would say yes.
So family.
Family and lots of people I've met along the way who are just good, giving, hardworking people.
Are you surprised at how many people pay you back?
No, I knew that people would pay me back. I knew that I would have a good repayment rate, and I knew that most people wouldn't believe that, so I've been collecting good data so that I could show evidence of the repayment rate in case anyone wanted to copy a project like this. So I wasn't surprised at all, but I knew that it would surprise other people.
So are you doing this interview in hopes of maybe someone else being inspired to do this same type of project or something similar?
Yes, I think that it's useful to me to spread the word so that if somebody wants to do something like this, they know that there's a method that they can copy that's been effective, and so that if there are other people doing similar things like this, maybe we can connect and find a way to support each other.
So do your customers ask you why you do this?
Yes, a lot of times they do.
What is the most often standard answer that you give them, if there is a standard answer?
Well, I'm just very authentic and straightforward with people, so I tell them about my own experiences. They'll often say, how did you get this idea? And I tell them about my life. I'm in a situation right now where I'm very lucky. I have a place to live, I have enough food, and I can take care of my child. But most times in my life, I haven't had enough money to meet my basic needs. So I've been in the situation where I've needed to get on a bus and not had enough money for the bus, and thought, I just need a quarter. And all these people have tons of money, and I just need a quarter, but it's not okay in our society to say, can I please have a quarter? I just need to get to school, or I just need to get to work. So I know that there is a need for a quarter, for $1, for $5, that there's a usefulness to that. So that's usually what I tell people. I just explain a little bit about myself.
Wow. So at one time in your life, you could have perhaps borrowed a quarter from yourself. You would.
Oh yeah, I would have come every week to borrow money from myself. It would have been my bank.
Wow. You mentioned you had a child. Does your child know what you do?
Yeah. Yes, he's been very supportive, and he's given me a lot of helpful ideas. At the beginning of the project, I wasn't quite sure how to spread the word. I'd reached out to all the agencies that work with folks in the community, and I'd gotten lots and lots of advice from people who sleep outside or who live outside. But I always ask my son for advice because he's got a very thoughtful perspective. So he gave me some really good ideas about how to spread the word, and I followed them.
Wow. What was the best, how old is he, and what was the best advice he gave you?
Well, he's 14, and what he told me about spreading the news for this was to find a couple of employees. So I made some flyers and paid a few people $5 to pass out the flyers, and that worked out really well.
Wow.
So a really simple, efficient solution.
Simple, efficient solution.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to go back to something. Do you feel that it's sad that in society that it is, if you need a quarter, it's really hard to ask someone for a quarter, or to tell someone, I can't get to work today, can you help me? Do you feel that that's sad?
What I think is sad, I wish I could remember this quote correctly, but Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has a quote about how, besides charity, we should fix the road. Instead of throwing beggars on the side of the road a gold coin, we should fix the road so that everyone can get to the place that they need to be. So I think it's sad that we have such an unequal society where people have more than they need and some people don't have enough to meet their needs. It doesn't make any sense to me, because I do believe we are all equal, that some people would not have enough to meet their basic human needs, not have a warm place to sleep at night, not have enough food for themselves or their children. It's not acceptable to me, and it doesn't make any sense. So I think our economic system is very, very flawed, and I think we have a long way to go to fix it.
So you do this one night a week.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to say which night. But where, Corinne, do you plan on going from here?
Well, again, I have a lot of ideas for different micro-lending projects. So if I had, say, a $10,000 grant, the next micro-lending project I'd like to do is to make small loans up to $100 specifically to women transitioning off of food stamps or off of other benefits, because that's a very difficult time. A lot of times a person gets a job and now they make too much money to qualify for food stamps, but since they're losing the food stamps, they're actually worse off than they were before they got the job. So there's this delicate time where people need some help and all help stops. So I would really love to be able to lend to that demographic if I had, but those loans would be bigger, so I would need more money to do that.
Does doing this project give you motivation for other things in your life? Do you come away on the particular night you do this inspired or motivated more to do different things in your life?
Well, it's a very hard thing to do, because I think a lot of times the way we're able, when we have enough, I think the way we're able to get through our day is by not thinking about those inequalities. So we might pass the person who's crumpled up sitting on the sidewalk in the cold and just rush to work. And I'm standing there for 2 hours